Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. I am Ace, and you're watching another episode of what was known as Tuesday Night Mania. Yet, if anybody has any ideas what they would want to call it, you can go ahead and drop it in the comment box. But tonight, let me introduce to you the crew that we have with us tonight. Number one, he's going by Please Stay Retire Ric Flair. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay. Yes, I saw a rumor that a couple wrestlers have challenged Ric Flair to one more match, and I really hope he stays retired. But, missed the show. Glad we get to redo this, and let's talk about what we've missed.
All right, and then welcome in Joe. Joe, you're back. What's up, my man?
What's going on, guys? How's everyone doing tonight?
Oh, not too bad. And then, of course, welcome in Will from TRC. Will, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing great. How's everybody doing?
Oh, not too bad. We have a lot to recap tonight. Joe, did you actually get a chance, or Joe or Big B, you get a chance to watch AEW? You want to give a little bit of a recap on what happened
Tonight I have not, but, the last few weeks I've seen, I mean, they're putting on pay-per-view matches. I think we covered this before on their weekly shows. So why tune into pay-per-views when they're putting their big matches on free TV? So, but all in all, I mean, still good show to watch. I still watch it, but yeah, it's hard to buy a pay-per-view when I'm seeing the matches for free. So,
well, now there's not even a title match announced for the pay-per-view. They just had the title match tonight, which apparently was just a one-sided ass whooping from Moxley to Punk. And then the only good thing that came out of any of that, I think, is the fact there's no longer an interim champion, which it was a ridiculous thing in the first place to have.
There will be for the women's side, though.
There will be, with Thunder, but, at least from the men's side, you have a world champion. Although I'm not sure. I almost think Moxley is just a placeholder to kind of hold that belt for somebody else. There's a lot of other talent in AEW that are probably going to be that champion. Now with Punk, I almost wonder if, some of the rumors are true and they just need to get that belt off of him, because to have that match on a Wednesday night for free and to get that get that belt off of him that quick, it's almost like they had to get it off of him before he caused some sort of problems or decided to walk out.
So I actually didn't get a chance to watch the match tonight, but from what you're saying is that it was one-sided.
I just spoiled it for you. There's a spoiler.
I think it was 3 minutes somebody posted.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I was just curious because I don't know if I usually wait to see if the match was actually good. I wait to see comments to see what people think, but
I'm glad
you're saying it.
As soon as I get off here, I'm going to watch it on YouTube.
I'm going to watch it.
From everything that I saw and heard and was told, I actually got a phone call about it earlier. It sounds like Moxley just destroyed Punk, and they played it off like Punk is hurt again or whatever. But, again, I almost think there was some animosity. I think there's a little bit of truth in every lie, and there's a little bit of truth in every rumor. And I think Punk is always going to be hard to work with. I think you're always going to fear he's going to walk out and quit on his job. And the best thing for them to do as a company was to take that belt off him, just like they took the belt off of Bret Hart at Survivor Series, which, as a fan, I thought was horrible. But as a person, as a business person, makes sense. So.
Joe, you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, they had after back-to-back Death Riders. I haven't watched it yet either, guys. I recorded it, but it says Moxley is able to get the pinfall win, and then Punk is helped out to the back after the match. So it looks like that was as everyone's saying, pretty one-sided there. There is a story that broke that Tony Khan had a major meeting before tonight's show with the talent and everybody. So kind of curious how that's going to play out, but. As we were talking before we went on the air, what Punk did last week by calling out Hangman, that was a bad decision, and a lot of podcasts with like Bully Ray and those guys have said the same thing. You don't call out somebody like that unless you got something going on with them in the ring, and you just basically made Hangman Page look like a big old coward because he wasn't even supposed to be involved in that segment. So it sounds like Punk went into business for himself a little bit there. They talked about this wasn't supposed to be the final match between Punk and Moxley, so maybe they do announce next week that it goes to All Out, being that it's in Chicago there. But who knows? It's going to be an interesting time right now. But I'm glad they got away with that interim thing. I mean, we're not UFC. We don't need interim champions. We need real champions. So even this Thunder Rosa thing, I mean, I told Big B there before we went on the air, her being women's champion's been horrible lately. She's had a horrible run with it. I mean, it was better when it was Britt, and I thought AEW was going to do something different with the women's division, but it just seems like they are doing exactly like what WWE's doing, which is nothing, and it's a shame because there's some really good talent there in AEW.
But nobody wants to work with Thunder because she had some moments, a couple months ago where she was doing some sandbagging and some, ridiculous stuff in the ring, and I think that put a bad taste in a lot of the mouths of the women talent. And you're only as good as your opponent, and you can only look as good as they make you, and they can only look as good as you make them. Yep. And when they personally don't like you, if you guys remember, probably 6 or 8 months ago, maybe longer, maybe shorter, I don't remember, but I had that discussion on this exact podcast. I said, I met Thunder Rosa, and I was glad to meet her. I was glad to get her stuff signed, but she wasn't the cool person that everybody thinks she is, or the person that I thought she was going to be. Joe, I told you about this, and all of a sudden, I think the rest of the world see what I said like 6 or 8 months ago about this lady's not the cool person you think she is. Like, she takes, if you follow her on Facebook and stuff, she takes all these pictures. She makes herself seem so fan friendly and all this stuff. She wasn't like that. And I have a feeling in the locker room, that's probably not how she is either. And, when people don't want to work with you, they'll make you look bad. And guess what has happened?
She came from AWA or NWA Power, right? Before she came Impact?
She was all over, though. She's been all through the Indies and everything else. Her big break in life was her getting signed to AEW. So, in reality, I mean, basically, her big break was getting signed to the number one independent company in the world, if you think about it, because AEW has become the leader of the independent companies.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Big brought up before we went on the air too. He's like, why don't they just make Jade the women's champion?
What happened to? She's undefeated. Why has she not got a title shot?
Well, look at the millions of dollars they've spent bringing all these talent in. Look at Toni Storm. For the love of God, put the belt on her and let her run with it and see what she does, because she was such a fan favorite. She was so popular. Why not put the belt on her? Britt's already had it, a couple times, I think. I think she's had it twice. I think Britt had it twice. I can't remember. Only once.
Yeah,
she had it so long, it seemed like she had it multiple times. But when she had it, it was really the face of the company. I mean, it was the thing to watch was on Dynamite and on Rampage and everything else, was to watch what was going to happen with the women's division, because you wanted to see what she was doing. With Thunder Rosa, it's the get up and get a beer match, and that's sad.
Yeah, I've kind of wondered that with Jade, like how long they're going to let her streak go before she actually ends up losing. Because right now they're kind of building people from comments and stuff I've seen is that people are actually comparing her to like the Goldberg type streak. And I was like, I don't know. I think eventually, that loss is, it's coming. It's coming. To who? Right now, we definitely don't know. But let's go ahead and move on to our next topic. We know that we have the new era in WWE, and you can definitely see actually a lot of improvements that are definitely going on right now. You're definitely seeing a lot more wrestling going on. I've always wondered, it makes me wonder what Vince McMahon is sitting back thinking right now, or he may not even really care at this point. So I don't know, because they're bringing all these guys back that Vince let go. But I think too, what kind of shocked me about it, when you think about this too, is that all these guys that are coming back. What shocked me about it was because Nick Khan was part of this, budget cuts and releasing these guys, and he's supposed to be like co-COO or whatever. So I'm looking this going, I'm surprised that Nick Khan is actually kind of agreeing to it, to being able to bring all these guys back when these so-called budget cuts are there. So,
do we know who the LJN King is?
I actually just reached out to him. I'm going to talk to him.
He wants to be a guest.
Yep. Yeah, we'll get some background, see who he is for sure.
But, Will, what's your thoughts on the new era of WWE, and does it surprise you that they're bringing all these guys back?
So I would like to talk about it from the office aspect. So number one, great move bringing Road Dogg back. I think it's a bad move getting rid of Jarrett. Regardless of what you think about Jarrett, the guy's got a great mind for the business. Ultimately started and built TNA, and of course turns into Impact. And, regardless of what you think about that company is still standing today. And, they're the number 3 company in wrestling, I would say. But, he started that and did it on his own. And then you got him over here. He was a major influencer, major part of the GWF, and all that, or whatever. What's the initials? Is it GWF, I think, or GFW, or whatever it is? What is the other company? With Nick Gage?
GCW?
With Nick Gage and all them?
Isn't it GCW?
GCW.
Is that the one where I thought he was the one that was the influencer for the company that has Nick Gage and all those guys?
Who's that? Sorry, my phone, my internet was breaking.
Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah, he's done a lot of work with Game Changer. Game Changer's been around, but I mean, Jeff helped put him on the map though more.
Right. So he's done all those things, and then he's the one guy that you cannot think of anybody that bounced back and forth between WWF and WCW more than Jeff Jarrett. Nobody ever bounced back and forth between those companies more than Jeff Jarrett did. So that guy's got tremendous knowledge. Of course, Memphis Wrestling, Mid-South, all the different things that he did, the different companies and stuff. And then, of course, his father, legendary promoter, Jerry Jarrett. I think by letting go of him, you've lost something there that you could have had. Road Dogg is a great person to put in there, no doubt. But I really think they made a mistake letting go of Jeff Jarrett. And I will tell you, at Flair's last match, Jeff Jarrett had so much heat, it was incredible. Like, it was old school wrestling heat, like you don't see today. Nobody is hated today like Jeff Jarrett was by 7,000 people in that Nashville Coliseum. So I think we've lost something there by not having him there. Sean's great. He's got a great storytelling mind. Triple H is great for the business. I don't know how much Stephanie really has to do with it. I think Stephanie more or less is the face of the company. And Triple H is kind of, running things office-wise. But, I would say if they were going to do anything different, they definitely should have brought back or should have kept Jeff Jarrett.
All right, Joe?
Back that they're bringing back that had the chance earlier. Karrion Kross, he's a heck of a talent. He deserves to be on that roster. And he played it so good when he became a free agent. He went out and did his commitments and did his work. He never and that's what you're supposed to do. Was not bash him, because you never know when you're going to open. And he always stayed in contact with Triple H and things like that. So he did a very good job. Johnny Gargano coming back Monday night, that pop in Toronto was unbelievable. And I see where they said, he kept his name, which is pretty much the end of the Vince era of wrestlers only having one name. So, and he kept his music too, so that was really cool. So I'm, as a fan, excited to see some of these guys come back that deserve it. The women too. They never got their fair shake on the main roster, and I think that's because Vince didn't really understand who they are. But the people that are coming back, they were a part of NXT, which is what Triple H helped build, and he nurtured this talent and has a good reputation with them. So I think it's great to see that, and we're going to kind of go into that little PG era, which I think is what the WWE needs a little bit. So keen on that being co-CEO. I don't care for him too much, but moves that Triple H and them are making are really good. I'm actually excited.
All right, Big B.
Yeah, I mean, Ace, we talked on, in our personal chat and between the ropes, Karen Cross coming back with Scarlett was huge. I mean, it broke that they were in talks, and poof, that night he shows up. Loomis coming back, Johnny G coming back. I think it's gonna be good. Most likely the Fiend's coming back. There was a clip a couple weeks ago of a hand. I assume it's the Fiend, but. No, I'm excited for what Triple H is doing, and hopefully, get some good matches going. I know, it can't make everybody happy. I see a lot of posts that are upset that Vince is out. They think Triple H is ruining the company more. Of course, split down the middle, but I think WWE's in really good hands right now.
Well, for those people who are saying that Triple H is ruining the company more, just look at the viewership. The viewership and everything has gone up drastically since he's taken over. And I think that the Johnny Gargano, you can say, was probably one of the well-kept secrets. Like it was. There was nothing leaked that Johnny was showing up on Monday Night Raw or anything.
Well, I heard they were in talks,
Yeah, but nobody knew it was coming on Monday night.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone cared either.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, I think the bigger shock is just the fact that Karen Cross was in talks that morning or whatever, and boom, he shows up on Raw. I think that was the biggest return of all right now.
So a couple comments that I want to make sure we read off.
Yep.
So Scott Pace says, wondering if any guys like Cesaro, FTR, Miro, Andrade, Malachi, etc., wish they would have held off to work for Triple H. So I don't think anybody's going to want to hold off for a paycheck.
No.
So I would say no, they're not wishing that.
And that kind of ties into the next comment.
Yeah. The next comment, you guys hear what AEW emailed WWE about not trying to recruit their talent. So that's pretty typical of any company, not recruiting talent and stuff like that. But AEW, I think, is concerned because all of a sudden, for all these years, WWE has been an environment. If you talk to the wrestlers, not everybody else, talk to the wrestlers, WWE is an environment that a lot of people didn't want to work in anymore because it wasn't a fun environment. It was a very poor environment to work in if you talk to the wrestlers. And now AEW, with Tony Khan not being the great guy to work for that everybody thought he was going to be, all of a sudden people are leaving and jumping ship and doing different things and not signing with AEW. So I would say, they're probably a little worried they're going to lose some of their talent. But I also think their roster is so overfilled that it would be a great thing for them to lose some talent. They need to get rid of some folks. They need to get some folks out of there. Look at Keith Lee. So first of all, Keith Lee was incredible in NXT.
Yep.
And then Keith Lee kind of had his little short run on the main roster, and then they started putting him in dark matches, and then they just said, we don't know what the hell to do with you, so we're just going to fire him.
Yep.
So the guy was pretty incredible, in my opinion. And then he goes to AEW thinking, well, my whole world's going to change, and I'm going to be a big star, and I'm going to be on television. And I think if you were to add up all of Keith Lee's AEW televised moments now, it would probably equal less than an average pay-per-view for WWE.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing that out there. They wasted the guy that brought him in. Same thing with Malachi Black. You had a character there that was probably the equivalent to a Fiend character or a Demon Finn Balor character, and you brought him into AEW and really did nothing with him. What is this House of Black garbage that they've done? So, I mean, that's not the right way to do things. You had a diamond in your hand. You had something you could really work with and make it a huge success. Does anybody even know what Malachi Black is doing? I mean, I don't even know. The guy's not even a top main eventer anymore, and he had the ability to be. Then you had Daniel Bryan. So I made this point not too long ago. I don't remember which chat it was in or who I was talking about, but when CM Punk left in 2014, his main gripe, he said, was he was tired of being booted out of main events, especially with WrestleMania moments and WrestleMania main events, because of the old timers or the part timers coming back and taking these spots and all this stuff. But if you think about it, when he quit in January of 2014 or early February 2014, the guy that main evented that WrestleMania was Daniel Bryan, another guy who had done the Ring of Honor scene, had done the independent scene, had done all the things that he did. So ultimately, when he left and quit and made all his complaints and gripes about how bad WWE was and how they kept bringing back all these old guys to be in the main events and stuff, because Batista was in the main event, it was still Daniel Bryan. What do they call it? Yes-O-Mania, because of the Daniel Bryan thing, WrestleMania 30. So the only bad thing about, the whole Daniel Bryan winning and going on and having that big celebration and stuff was it was all overshadowed by that's where The Undertaker took his loss to Brock Lesnar. Otherwise, you wouldn't remember any other match on that card except for Daniel Bryan winning the title that night at WrestleMania 30. You wouldn't remember anything else if it wasn't for Undertaker taking that loss at WrestleMania 30. Because I'm pretty willing to say no one remembers the Intercontinental title match at that event, or no one remembers the tag team title match at that event, or no one remembers the, whatever, women's match or whatever. But everybody remembers the Undertaker losing to Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 30.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the key one on the card. You talk
Correct.
about WrestleMania 30, everyone's like Brock and Taker.
Correct. Yep. But it was supposed to be, I guess it was supposed to be Punk in that main event at WrestleMania. I don't remember against who, or I don't remember what the storyline was supposed to be, but then they brought back Batista, and Punk was afraid that Batista was going to be the WWE champion, and he once again was going to miss out on a main event. But that's not what happened.
Yeah, that was the year that I believe Batista came back, won the Rumble, and then was gonna be in the championship match, and then Daniel Bryan worked his way in to make it a triple threat match, and then that's
He
when
won the Rumble. He won the Rumble and got booed out of the building.
Yeah, he
Remember
did.
that? Booed out of the building. Like hated it. I can't remember. I want to say when Reigns got thrown over the top, they threw a huge fit, and then of course,
because wasn't Reigns supposed to win, or everybody wanted Reigns to win?
and then Reigns and Bryan, and then
Daniel Bryan, Rey Mysterio came in last and got booed out of the building too.
yeah, Reigns got thrown out, and everybody booed like crazy. Then Daniel Bryan got thrown out, and everybody booed like crazy because they all wanted one of those two to win.
Yep.
And then when Batista won it, he got booed out of the building.
Yeah, I believe that was the same year that CM Punk actually got thrown out too, and people were angry because CM Punk got thrown out.
Yep.
And so it was
Punk left the very next night, right? Wasn't it the next night?
because he got thrown out, and he was mad because he's like, I always wanted to win the Rumble, and I never got to win the Rumble. I never got to main event WrestleMania, and I mean, there's legitimately only a handful of people that can actually say they got to main event WrestleMania
Or win the Rumble.
Yep.
Yeah.
How many great superstars of our time never won a Rumble? I mean, should we name them off? Macho Man Randy Savage never won a Rumble.
But didn't he main event WrestleMania?
Yeah, he did main event, but he never won a Royal Rumble. So
Yep.
that's the point. Is he never won a Royal Rumble? Roddy Piper never won a Royal Rumble.
Yep.
So if we're comparing
Warrior.
CM Punk, Warrior, if we're comparing CM Punk, I wouldn't put CM Punk in the same league as the Macho Man or as the Warrior or as Piper. You know, Sergeant Slaughter never won a Royal Rumble.
Yep.
Jake Snake never won a Royal Rumble. You know, so I mean, I think the guy is just a quitter. He always was a quitter. You know, he'll always be a quitter, and he's going to be a quitter in AEW just like he was in WWE.
Yep.
But the thing is, his gripe was all these part-timers coming back and taking my spot and going to take my WrestleMania main event when it was another guy who had done just the same path as him as an independent who went on to be the champion at WrestleMania. So really kind of ruined his gripe. And then, of course, he's out for all these years. He wants to be an MMA fighter or UFC fighter, has one fight, gets his ass handed to him, and then decides, you know what? I'm going to go home until I run out of money, and then I'm going to go back to wrestling.
Yep.
And then he goes to the number one independent company in the world, and now all of a sudden you're starting to see locker room issues and all these other things. And in my opinion, the last thing I'll say about it is they had that match tonight to get that belt off of him in case he decides to walk out and throw another 10K. That's the last I'm going to say about it.
But
And it could be a possibility.
Yeah,
that main event match at WrestleMania, if it wasn't for Punk walking out, because it was supposed to be CM Punk versus Triple H. So Daniel Bryan was very lucky because he wasn't even supposed to have a WrestleMania match at that moment. So he got to the moon because of CM Punk.
That promo that Triple H did back in 2012 or 2013, whenever it was, when he cut that promo about CM Punk's an advocate for change as long as CM Punk's the one that's on top of the change, was spot on.
Yeah,
Well,
that was
it was.
that actually too.
Well, yeah, because Triple H is the one who said, yeah, so we're kind of the same, but we're different in the aspect to where you're going to whine and complain about it. And me, I'm going to let everybody know. I'm going to step on you to get to the very top. And so it's like, yeah, so there definitely is a difference.
Right.
All right. So talking about pay-per-views, we have coming up, we have the Clash at the Castle, and then we have the All In, which, you had previously mentioned. Right now, we have no idea what the championship match for All In is going to be, and it's coming up. Can we potentially see a rematch of CM Punk versus Moxley?
I don't think so. I don't think you do, because I think the office has already determined, that they're not going to put that belt back on Punk right now, at least until they kind of feel him out and see where he's at. And Tony Khan is the number one fan in the world of CM Punk. But if any of this is an actual work and not a shoot, a shoot, not a work, then they're not going to trust putting that belt on him. In 2011 at Money in the Bank, when CM Punk had his contract expiring, they decided to put the WWE title on him. They let him beat John Cena in the ring so he could walk out as a champion, because they thought that would be what it would take to get him to come back to WWE. I don't know if you guys remember that or not.
Yeah.
And then he agrees kind of like the last minute to re-sign a contract and come back as he's a champion. Then he goes into SummerSlam. He ends up losing the belt. He has this big run where he has to, go through a bunch of guys to try to get the belt back. And then once he gets it back, he holds it for like 400 and some odd days until he drops it to The Rock. And he's pissed, even though he just held it for more than a year straight as the champion. He's pissed because he dropped it to The Rock, of all people. Well, money-wise, and you're building money, The Rock's always going to draw more money than CM Punk. Anywhere, any day, any company, no matter what. If The Rock came to AEW right now, then The Rock would draw more money than CM Punk, obviously. So the guy didn't want to drop the belt, but he held it for more than a year. There's a lot of great champions in the history that never either A, held the belt, or B, never held it for nearly as long.
Mm-hmm. I
I think you could combine all three of Mick Foley's world championship runs, and I think he only held the title for like a month, maybe. And CM Punk is not in the same league as Mick Foley, in my opinion. Just my opinion.
All right, so Joe, with the All Out pay-per-view coming up, what do you think potentially the championship match could be?
I don't know. I'm looking at the updated card right now, and they got Tony Baker versus Jamie and Akira Sheeta for the intern women's championship. They got Keith Lee there against the Acclaim for the tag team title. So he's getting a pay-per-view finally after being there for a hot. The finals to the Trios Championship, the Casino Ladder Battle Royal. They just announced that Wardlow and FTR will be taking on Jay Lethal and the Motor City Machine Guns. Chris Jericho versus Bryan Danielson. Powerhouse Ricky Stark and Christian Cage versus Jungle Boy. I think that Chris Jericho Bryan Danielson match is going to be the show stealer altogether because I'm not. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Will. I'm not 100% sure those two men have met in a ring.
2012, I think somewhere in 2012.
Who we talking about?
Jericho,
Chris Jericho,
Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Oh, when there wasn't that when there was the NXT stuff, that crazy NXT.
The like invasion of like NXT or whatever.
Can't remember, but I'm pretty sure they had some matches 2012 because you got to remember Bryan was world heavyweight champion and then he dropped it to Sheamus and then Bryan feuded with Punk a couple times and then Punk had faced Jericho at Mania and the following pay-per-view. So I think somewhere in there, like on some Raws or some SmackDowns or something, there was some Jericho Bryan match. I could be totally wrong, but I believe there was. But either way, when you look at the card and you listen to the card that you called out, that's obviously going to be the match of the night, even though Jericho, probably is getting to the point where, maybe he should start thinking about doing something a little different. I mean, I don't know, but I don't know that Jericho is nearly what he was, but he's still a draw, and let's hope there's no barbed wire laying around so you can get all caught up in it, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, it actually looks like they've fought a few times. I'm just looking at see if I can find the exact stats, but it looks like they fought at Elimination Chamber, and then once when Chris Jericho held the World Championship title, back when they were doing the wrestler or the teacher in the NXT, back when they were doing the show. Because it was Jericho with Wade Barrett versus Daniel Bryan and his student. I forgot who it was. So it looks like they fought a couple times at least.
Well,
I don't know if they're going to put a world title match on there or not. I mean, from what I've been reading as we've been talking, it seems like Moxley was all about having this match tonight, and it took Punk a long time to finally agree to that they wanted to do this match tonight instead of and
well,
so that could be fine just to get rid of Punk altogether.
but don't you feel like you almost couldn't put a championship match on the card because you feel like it's too soon? Like you only have a week to try and throw something together.
But you're not selling pay-per-view buys. I mean, nobody's going to buy it the way it is right now. Nobody's buying it. But I will tell you this, though, on a side note, which I know we've totally backtracked back to this. I hate that we spend so much time on this AEW, but I will tell you, did you guys happen to see the prices for the upcoming AEW Fan Fest? Did you guys see the prices? So, like, for a John Moxley autograph, it's like $160.
Holy cow.
For a Britt Baker is like 125 or some crazy. Check it out when you get a chance. I can tell you they're going the wrong direction with how they're trying to gouge the fans because that's not good. If you look at the current economy that we're in, and you look at fuel prices, grocery prices, mortgage prices, rent prices, all that stuff, people are not going to continue to support that, especially when the same people are signing autographs for $40 at a normal convention or, $50-$60 or whatever here and there. And then all of a sudden, because it's an AEW Fan Fest in Chicago, you're charging $140 or $160 or whatever it may be for them. And let me tell you about...
And how much to get in.
Exactly. And then there's a ticket price to get in as well. But let me tell you about that too. And then the wrestlers don't care these days. The younger talent don't care nearly as much about their autographs. So if you ever get yourself a John Moxley autograph, let me tell you, it's like an M and an X with like some lines.
Yep.
And then when he was Dean Ambrose, it was just a D and an A. I mean, like an illiterate wrote it. You know, like if you were illiterate and you couldn't, do any writing for your name, and they taught you just how to sign your name to like sign checks and stuff. That's how an illiterate would write their name, with a D and an A. I mean, think about that. And then you're going to pay $100 and something for that. I mean, D and an A. Have you guys ever seen a Dean Ambrose autograph? It's literally a D and an A.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I saw that.
Absolutely ridiculous. Not that he's the only one that does that. I mean, there's a lot of the newer talent that do that stuff. But at the same time, when you're paying this unbelievable amount of money for that, I can tell you it's not worth it. And fans, they're not going to support it.
Yeah, so Scott Pace is saying CM Punk isn't even on the same level talent-wise as guys like Henning, Hall, or Piper, who never got the big one.
Right.
All right. Yeah. So we can actually move on to Clash of the Castle really quick, just to kind of see what match you're really looking forward to on that night. So Big B, which match you like really looking forward to?
Right now, I mean, definitely the world title or the universal title. Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns, to see how that all turns out. Because again, there's a lot of reports that he's only going to drop one title. USA wants Raw to have a title, so who knows? Karrion Kross could interfere. I mean, so that's definitely one match. Edge versus Ballard definitely is another match. I just read reports too that it could turn into a mixed triple tag match too. So we'll see where that goes. But those are probably the two main matches I want to see.
Yeah, but I'm with you on that one. I'm really curious how they're going to have Roman drop one belt, because that's kind of the thing right now, is that Roman's supposed to walk out with one belt. So somehow. But Will, what matches are you looking forward to at Clash of the Castle?
The same one, Drew and Roman. But I'll tell you this. I've been saying forever and ever and ever, you can't do this one guy has two belts garbage. It's got to be two titles. I mean, you can go back and watch our old videos. I don't know how many times I've said this. But at the same time, I hope to God they didn't build all this up for Roman after all this time to have him drop it to Drew McIntyre. That'd be like going out and dropping one of his titles to Gilbert. Not even the real Goldberg, but Gilbert. So...
Or Dominic Mysterio.
Dominic Mysterio.
Or Disco Inferno. I mean,
no, not that bad. But but I will say, all joking aside, I will say Drew is a pretty good competitor. He's hung in there through the thick and the thin, but I'm just not a fan. There's nothing about his gimmick that makes me want to see the guy as a champion. I can't. I hope they don't let Roman drop the belts to him after all they've done with this, because there's so much more that I think they could do. Roman needs to come out on Raw and say, look, I'm going to be the Universal Champion, the real championship that matters. You guys can have this other title back, and just kind of throw it and walk out of Raw and go back to SmackDown. Then they create a tournament. I've said this before, and somebody can become champion. But I do not think you have Drew put Roman down, because if Drew can put Roman down, then what are we anticipating The Rock coming back for? Because if Drew can beat him, then obviously The Rock could beat him. Now, if you have him go through Drew and you have him just relinquish one of the belts, then you can create a new champion. He's only working every other pay-per-view now, or every second pay-per-view now. You can get yourself to Survivor Series, or you can get yourself to Rumble or WrestleMania or something before you have a real big threat to the title again, to build it up for The Rock to come back, if that's what you're actually going to do. But at this point, I wish they would just hurry up and do something, or announce something, because the waiting and the wondering, it's getting a little ridiculous now. I think we hit the 2-year mark yesterday. I think it was. The 2-year mark was yesterday. of Roman coming back with the Wreck Everyone and Leave shirt. I think it was yesterday
Yeah.
with SummerSlam 2020, right? When he came out and he speared Braun and he speared Bray and all that.
Oh, yep.
I think that was like 2 years yesterday. So, and then he ends up winning the Universal title like 1 week after that. So he's been Universal Champion for a couple years, but not to drop the Drew, I don't think.
Yeah, it would not shock me if somehow, some way, at the Clash of the Castle, like Roman beats like Drew, and then afterwards, Pierce or somebody walks out and says, "Oh, but that wasn't your only match tonight. You have to go out and face this guy too." And somebody like the Fiend comes out and he's like, "Okay, you're gonna put one belt on the line against him," and
I think you could see that at like Survivor Series. I think you could see that at an American pay-per-view. But an overseas pay-per-view, I think they just get through it. It probably ends in some sort of a schmoz at the end where, Karrion Kross comes in, does some interference or something, or, something like that. I don't think you see that at an overseas pay-per-view because, I don't know, I have that feeling, that you don't see that. I can't think of any major overseas pay-per-views where a major champion has ever really dropped a belt. I could be wrong, but I can't think of one where it's happened.
Well, it's where Drew's from. That's what's making me think maybe they'll give him his chance because that's where he's from.
Well, maybe, but I hope not.
Or Theory, he comes down, he cashes in, and then once he cashes in, then Heyman's like, no, you have to read the fine print. It says you get one belt, not both. You get one.
Isn't it the 2-year anniversary? Is it not the 2-year anniversary of when he got that belt?
I believe so, yeah.
Because if this yesterday was the 2-year anniversary of Wreck Everyone and Leave, it was only 1 week later after that when he came back and won the Universal title. So, and then of course this year at Mania he wins the WWE title by beating Brock. So I think it kind of lines up with the 1-year anniversary. 2-year anniversary of him being champion. So, but I just don't see it. I can see what you're saying with Theory though. I can definitely see that where Theory comes in. Theory's getting awful tired of getting his ass kicked by everybody. Everybody's beating the hell out of Theory. I mean, to the point where even if you don't like the guy, you're starting to feel bad for him. Like, this guy's whooped by everybody. Pretty soon the guy selling beers in the audience is going to come out and beat the shit out of Theory. I mean, that's how bad it's getting, So I think it's time for him to hit somebody in the head with that briefcase a couple good times and pin somebody and run out of there with a belt. But I don't know if it'll be overseas because I just don't see that. But maybe. What's after Clash at the Castle? What's the next?
Extreme.
Yeah, Extreme Rules.
Extreme Rules.
I could see that. I could see Drew and Roman having a rematch at Extreme Rules. And, it's a hell of a match, like a TLC match or whatever. And then Theory comes in, cashes in, gets the belt. You could easily build Karrion Kross versus Theory for several events, having Karrion Kross snatch that belt off of Theory. I don't think you have Kross come in right away and take that belt off of Roman. I don't see that. But I will tell you, on a personal side note, and I'll make it very fast, Karrion Kross, as a person individually talking to him, is one of the best people you could ever talk to in your life. Great guy, down to earth. That guy is what a WWE superstar should be because of the way he talks to you and the way he treats people. And I am a big fan of him and his in-ring stuff just because of how he is personally to people.
All right, Joe, how about you for the Clash of the Castle?
I actually have Roman favored to win this thing right now. And I think that think about the only major title that's changed hand overseas was SummerSlam 92, Brett and Bulldog, the Intercontinental title, and that's back when the Intercontinental title actually long. But as far as World Championship, it hasn't changed. I draft this year, so USA Network's dictating what the WWE to do right now. So I'm going to be a single champion on Raw at some point in time, and that might be just the way they do it with Theory. Because I'm like, Will, that poor guy is getting his ass handed to him every week. I mean, he just got super kicked, right? Brock Lesnar damn near killed him with that briefcase at SummerSlam. I thought he was going to throw him and the briefcase out into the crowd.
I loved it.
So I did too. I thought it was good. And regardless, I've seen Theory in action on an independent show, and that guy is down to earth, the nicest guy in the world. He comes across on TV as an a-hole, but man, he is so humble. He really, really, truly is. And he's young too, super young. I think he's maybe 23, 24 tops right now. So he's got a bright future. Triple H, they've already said, is still very high on him. So they got some big plans for Theory there. Other than that, the Flash, they've already got their money's worth. It's the most money outside of a WrestleMania, and they just opened up more seats, so they're looking at 60,000+ fans. And they couldn't even do that at SummerSlam. I mean, half that whole side of that stadium was empty. So
I know. I saw it. I was there. I was right outside the stadium there in Nashville. We were in downtown Nashville while SummerSlam was going on, and I could see the stadium from where we were. And I you can see in Nissan Stadium from either side. You can't see from, I guess it would be the north and south side, but you can see from the east and the west inside the stadium itself, and you could see all the empty seats. But on TV, it looked full, but it wasn't.
All right. Well, to finish up here, we'll go into our final topic here, which is we'll let you guys talk about this week in wrestling history, SummerSlam '95 Heart and Soul. So
97.
97. Okay, we'll talk about 97. So, all right, Will, go ahead and take it away.
All right, so Heart and Soul, SummerSlam '97. I think there was a lot of different angles that they were trying to play with that, and I think they couldn't figure out where they were going to go. So first of all, main event is Undertaker and Bret Hart for the WWF Championship. Bret had spent the majority of the summer out, and he had been, I think it was a knee injury or whatever. He'd been in a wheelchair, he'd been on crutches and different things like that. But he comes back a month before at the In Your House, which is Canadian Stampede in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Has a hell of a 5-on-5 Hart Foundation match against 5 American wrestlers: Austin, Goldust, LOD, Ken Shamrock. Hell of a good match. And then ends up in the main event against The Undertaker. But not only is the main event there just absolutely phenomenal, the whole card is pretty damn good. You got Stone Cold and Owen for the Intercontinental title. Of course, that's the match where Stone Cold gets injured when Owen drops him on his neck. You got the Bulldog versus Ken Shamrock in a dog food match. Pretty good match. And then you got, to start out the show, was Mick Foley against Triple H in an old blue cage match. Really, really good match. So the whole card was built. It was great. You get to the main event. It's Bret and The Undertaker. If Bret loses, he can't wrestle in America anymore. If Undertaker loses, he loses the title. If Shawn Michaels, who's the special guest referee, if he doesn't call it down the middle, he ends up losing his job and all this different stuff. So a lot of great stipulations. Overall match quality, in my opinion, is a 9 out of 10. Those two working together always had great matches. But not only that, you talk about two of the best of all time, two complete professionals. The match quality is incredible. Then you get down to the last probably 2 minutes of the match, and it's all kinds of turmoil. And, there's a chair gets into the ring, and Shawn Michaels grabs the chair and asks Bret Hart why it's in the ring. And Bret's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then Shawn keeps trying to give Bret a hard time about this chair, and Bret spits in his face, and Shawn swings the chair like a home run hitter in a baseball game and just knocks the holy hell out of The Undertaker. And it wasn't just a chair shot. It wasn't a a chair shot like today where they hit them and they like put their hand up and they're like, "Oh my God, I'm out for 7 years now. I've been hitting the head with a chair." Right? I mean, it was a literal like Shawn Michaels swung for the fences. You gotta watch it. I'm telling you, and hits Undertaker right on the top of the damn head, and the thud that you hear from that chair shot. Joe can tell you. I'm sure he remembers it just like I do. The thud that hits Undertaker on the top of the head sounded like a gunshot going off in that arena. Undertaker falls down. In reality, Undertaker's probably knocked out for a minute because of the chair shot, but of course, he lays down. Brett covers him, wins the title. Incredible event. Sets up, a couple months later, Shawn versus Brett at Survivor Series. Great event. Go back and watch it. SummerSlam 1997. Heart and soul. Highly recommended. I would say overall pay-per-view quality 9 out of 10, maybe more.
All right, Joe.
I'm laughing because I remember that was my second pay-per-view I bought when I moved out onto my own. The first one was Road Wild just a couple weeks before that. So I was just laughing because I was in the kitchen when I heard that thud shot, and I thought the same thing. What the hell happened there? Because it was so loud, and you've seen a replay of it. I mean, like everybody protects themselves, you can see it, and they still get the effect. Man, Undertaker took that square. I had a headache afterwards thinking about it.
So can we point out back then they didn't have instant replay, so they had to like rewind the tape and then play it to show it again. I mean, that's a true story. Remember that, Joe? They didn't have instant replay.
Recorded it. So I definitely had to hit the rewind button and watch it later on.
Well, they did. They showed it. They showed the thing that like they rewound the tape of what just happened to show you during the live event because everybody's like, "What the hell happened?" I mean, the match was just going and going and going, and then it just all of a sudden ended. So, but they didn't have like today. You have a move happen, and then within 10 seconds, you got an instant replay showing you exactly what happened. They didn't have that back then. They literally had to rewind tapes to show you. I'm telling you. Go back and watch it. Absolutely fabulous. Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, you're fine. Absolutely. But so many great things came out of that. I mean, the loogie shot on Shawn. I mean, then that feud continued on a little bit. We got the first Hell in a Cell with him and Shawn and Undertaker, which was the debut of Kane. We got the formation of D-Generation X, and then Montreal screw job that people talk about to this day, whether it's real or fake, as we've had that discussion too. And the start of the month, because remember a couple months later on, Vince has said this old school philosophy is out the door, and we're going into this attitude era. And then next thing you know, man, we're off and running. We got Monday Night Wars, unbelievable. So as a fan and as a kid, a teenager, for those ones that didn't get to see wrestling like we did in those smoke-filled arenas, this is the highlight of their 8 years here.
Well, and remember Vince had that conversation right after the Montreal screw job about, Brett screwed Brett, and there's a time tradition about how champions leaving a territory would lose and all that stuff. So, I mean, all this plays a humongous part in it. You got to go back and watch. If you're going to pick a SummerSlam to watch to really get yourself into what created the Attitude Era, because the Attitude Era was literally within like 60 days of SummerSlam 97. I mean, it came really fast after that SummerSlam. So because
came out in December, I believe, when he dropped that whole Attitude Era,
Yeah, well, it was within like 60 days of SummerSlam because it was literally like, I think it was the very next week, maybe after Survivor Series when Vince cuts that promo. I don't think it was the next night. I think it was the next week. I can't remember.
Sporting that black eye, and it was a week later because he came out with that, and then that is when kind of people started to realize that Vince was not just a commentator on television, that he was actually the owner of the WWE, because up to that point we didn't have internet. So I mean, it was one of those he's been calling it.
If you knew, you knew. But
right.
If you didn't know, you just thought Vince was a commentator. You had no idea Vince owned WWF. You know?
That's one of the first times I realized that Vince was the owner. I'm like, oh,
Yeah. And another part too, if you remember, like at Royal Rumble that year and some of the Raws, where like say Bret Hart lost at Royal Rumble that year, Austin threw him out after Austin had been eliminated,
Yep.
and then Bret goes over to the announce table and is screaming at Vince McMahon after Austin threw him out, and everybody's like, "Why the hell is he taking it out on you, Vince?" But in reality, he's yelling at him because Vince is the owner. But if you didn't know, you just wondered why Bret Hart was over there screaming at the commentator, Vince McMahon. And then when you had the heel turn of Bret, where Bret, the beginning of the heel turn, where Bret's in the ring and Vince McMahon gets in and starts talking to him after he loses to Sid in the cage right before WrestleMania 13,
yeah.
same year. And then Bret shoves him down and starts screaming at him and everything else. And half the fans are like, why is he yelling at Vince? What does the commentator Vince McMahon have to do with any of this? But in reality, Vince McMahon, of course, is the owner of WWF. But I would say a good 50 to 60% of people that watched the shows back then and was really involved in it had no idea that Vince McMahon was the owner of the company. They literally just thought he was a commentator, which made it that much better.
He did what he did. When
What's
Brett
that?
said, "Oh, Professor was, and I'm the best guy in his company," telling Vince that Vince is on the outside of the ring, I was still believing. Why is he hollering at Vince being on doing that? Vince wasn't even commentating that night either, so why is he telling Vince all that stuff for? But long and behold, later on we found out exactly why. But even up to that point, I still didn't know.
Yeah.
We're almost at that point, so really quick, Big B, if you have anything to say on.
No, I mean, I think everything's been said. I mean, how many matches start off with a cage match too, or pay per view starts off with a cage match, not being the main event. So I mean, yeah, top to bottom, that was pretty good pay per view. I definitely have to go back and watch it. So
All right, so now we can go
Was
ahead.
that Love came out when Mick ripped open his shirt and revealed that heart.
All right, so we can go in and kind of give our final thoughts here. So, Big B, your final thoughts for the evening.
no, just glad we got to do the show again. Sorry, stuff's come up and we, are in transition of redoing the show, but hopefully everybody definitely can keep tuning in and love talking wrestling with these three guys. So thank you all the viewers for joining us.
All right, Joe.
I think Joe's computer froze.
I think it froze. All right, Will.
Thank you guys. Really appreciate everybody. It's been a while since we were on. I noticed our viewership tonight
Sorry,
was pretty low, but I think that's because
I was like,
people don't know that we changed times and days and everything else. So, but we're going to get back to doing the right thing consistently and rebuild our followers and all that stuff. And guys, I really want to stress this out to everybody. If there's anybody out there watching that wants to get on and talk old school wrestling, please let us know. We'll get you on here. We'd love to have the input from everybody. That's what's important. Huge shout out to Top Rope Collectibles, my guys over there, my admins and members over there. Really appreciate all you guys. Thank you so much. Huge shout out to Joe. It's been a while since got to see him for a while. Big shout out to Big B. And of course, Ace of Mania running wild. And then Crispy Bacon, can't do it without Crispy. So, guys, we look forward to seeing you again real soon. And thank you guys for everything.
All right, so thank you all, and we will see you next week. So with that, everybody have a fantastic night, and we'll see you all later.